What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does, that helps make sure that those are subscribed to the channel will indeed get the notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, please do me a favor and yourself a favor by hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms to your family and friends to inform them on this news and information. And yes, that does help to give me a slight boost in the YouTube algorithm as well. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, just when Kamala thought that she was going to coast her way onto the election, Joe Biden had to mess it up for her, didn't he? Biden ruined it for her. She thought that she can coast her way to the election, coming off of Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden rally, in which a joke was told about a floating island of garbage, which was revealed to be Puerto Rico in the joke. There was a lot of fake outrage surrounding it. The DNC media did what we all knew that they would do. They would spin that into oblivion. But just when they thought the coast was clear, here comes Joe Biden referring to Trump supporters as garbage, effectively talking about roughly half of the U.S. population, calling half the U.S. population garbage. Let's listen to this right here.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Tina is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
So it looks like now Kamala Harris has to distance herself from this comment because it's turning around to bite her in the butt, because it's highly offensive. You're saying that 50% of the American population is garbage. Harris distances herself from Biden's garbage comments as Democrats are privately exasperated by the president. They are privately irritated and so highly upset at Biden messing up Harris's coasting moment. So much so to the point that Harris actually had to respond to this. And here's what she had to say.
President Biden took his comment last night about garbage.
Listen, I think that, first of all, he clarified his comments. But let me be clear, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for.
Well, we know that that's not true. What were they calling the people who attended Trump's Madison Square Garden rally? Maybe you guys can help me out with that in the comment section. Anyways, carry on, Kamala. Carry on.
You heard my speech last night and continuously throughout my career. I believe that the work that I do is about representing all the people, whether they support me or not. And as President of the United States, I will be a president for all Americans, whether you vote for me or not. That is my responsibility, and that's the kind of work that I've done my entire career, and I take it very seriously.
Have you spoken to him about his comments and his intentions?
He did call me last night, but this didn't come up.
Are you concerned about what impact this may have on voters, on the divisiveness of the election, and whether or not it's going to dissuade some people from supporting you because of your affiliation with the president and this administration?
I've been very clear with the American public. I respect the challenges that people face. I respect the fact that we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and that most people want a president that understands that gets that, and approaches their role of leadership that way. I've been very clear from my earliest years as a prosecutor. I never asked anyone, are they a Democrat or Republican? The only thing I ask folks is, are you okay? And that's the kind of president I will be.
She just had to hit us with the script. It is impossible for this woman to speak without going into her script and rehearsed lines. Unbelievable. You know, I never ask people if they're Democrat or Republican. I just ask them if they're okay. I mean, anyways, let's carry on. And this is precisely why she won't do a 3-hour-long Joe Rogan interview, by the way. This is why Joe Rogan said, you know what, we'll pass. because an hour is not enough time. But we know that she cannot go longer than an hour because she would run out of script material. But I digress. Let's get back to the point of the video, because the DNC is scrambling right now. They're scrambling right now, trying to pick up the pieces to the mess that Joe Biden left out for them. Like I said, as they were on their way coasting to the election. And I want you to hear this discussion that happened on CNN. I want you to listen to the excuses that are being made by the DNC pundits, to which then Scott Jennings interjects and shuts it all down. But let's listen to the excuses very quickly. Let's jump into that.
President. I don't know that I would expect this president to be everywhere in this moment. I mean, look, a critical element, any coach will tell you, any CEO will tell you, a critical element of running a team and winning is assessing the strengths and weaknesses of your team members and making sure you allocate them in the right way. Joe Biden has never been a big arena speaker. He's never been the most fluid speaker. And by the way, as someone who had a stutter growing up, it's very obvious to me that there's an apostrophe at the end of supporters there. He was referring to the garbage spewed by supporters, not simply the supporters themselves.
So they're blaming it on a stutter. They're blaming it on a stutter that Joe Biden doesn't have. There was no stuttering. He was very clear when he said garbage supporters. But we're just supposed to imagine that there was an apostrophe before the S. That's what he was saying. That has to be one of the most nonsensical excuses that I've ever heard in my life. Has anyone ever listened to someone speak where you heard the apostrophe? It's very clear that he has a stutter, and it's very clear that you can hear the apostrophe before the S. I'm going to play that part one more time, then we're going to let them continue to bury themselves. That is crazy.
A big arena speaker. He's never been the most fluid speaker. And by the way, as someone who had a stutter growing up, it's very obvious to me that there's an apostrophe at the end of supporters there. He was referring to the garbage spewed by supporters, not simply the supporters themselves.
Can you hear the apostrophes? I'll stop. My apologies. Let's just carry on. This is ridiculous.
But Joe Biden has been on the campaign trail. He's best getting ice cream in Maryland like he was today. He's best showing moments of empathy in Arizona like he was last week. He's best with union folks as he was in Pittsburgh last week as well. You use people where they are best. You put Obama in a big arena, you put Michelle in a big arena, and you put Joe Biden in front of a bunch of union people doing retail politics.
You could make the argument that they would be fine if Joe Biden wasn't anywhere near a microphone between now and next Tuesday.
Abby Phillips is so mad. She's putting her own suggestions out there saying, I think you could say that things would be fine if you didn't put him in front of a microphone anymore. I mean, every time they put him in front of a microphone, there's some sort of a gaffe. I think my favorite Joe Biden gaffe, you could call it, was when he was at that get-together where there was a lot of Trump supporters present, and he took a Trump 2024 hat, put it on his head. I think it was a Trump fans 2024 hat, and then he made a joke about eating cats and dogs. How many of you all remember that? Yeah, CNN swept that under the rug too, but it happened, and many of us reported on it, including myself. But if I was Team DNC, I'd probably feel just like Abby does. I'd probably feel the same way. I would say stop putting a microphone in front of Joe Biden's face. There's only 1 week to go, or 6 days left now. Please do not put any cameras on him, and do not put a microphone in his face, because he's going to blow it.
Let me just accept the most charitable framing of this, which you just gave. Why is he sitting in front of a laptop at the exact same moment Kamala Harris is out on his backyard trying to give the closing argument to her campaign? What in the world is he doing? Now, I don't accept your framing of it personally, because I actually do believe he, Harris, the Democratic Party, and most of their campaign do believe that half the country is garbage. They've also said people who go to Trump rallies are Nazis. And so it's pretty apparent the disdain with which they hold half of the country in.
That's not true. The party already litigated it in Kamala's speech tonight.
But as a tactical matter today,
no, but you don't just get to say
why in the world is Joe Biden giving remarks at the same time as Kamala Harris?
I'll give you that.
Scott Jennings strikes again, makes a very interesting point. Kamala Harris gave her closing remarks right in the backyard of Joe Biden. I believe it was yesterday in DC. Why wasn't Biden present? And why is he sitting in front of a laptop with the webcam on, calling Trump supporters garbage as opposed to being on stage next to Kamala Harris? Well, that's because she wants to distance herself from him and his trash policies, which she was a part of, because as per Biden, she was always the last one in the room when every decision was made. That's how they sold her to us. But now all of a sudden, well, she was just the vice president. She doesn't have any power, even though Biden already told us that she was the last one in the room when the final decisions were made. In between her and Biden, Biden's policies are Harris's policies. You cannot separate the two. And even when you try to separate the two, Biden will still find a way to ruin it for you by hopping on a Zoom call and talking nonsense as you thought you were going to coast your way to the finish line. But looks like you are wrong. And with all that being said, that does it for today's news. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And also don't forget to follow me on Telegram and Rumble. It is extremely important that you do that. Please follow me on Telegram and Rumble at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram and Rumble will be in the description box below, as well as pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.